Is democracy in danger or decline? Condoleezza Rice, William Galston, and Carlos Gutierrez and others take on this question in the fall edition of The Catalyst, a journal of ideas from the Bush Institute. Surveys show Americans place less trust in institutions like the media and business. Others contend America has faced far more challenging periods and emerged strong. Leading policymakers, Bush Institute experts, and respected journalists take on this debate. Read about it at bushcenter.org/catalyst.
Hi, welcome to NED. NED is a series of interactive, web-based discussions sponsored by Newton Software, the creators of Newton, popular, easy-to-use recruiting software. NED showcases recruiting industry influencers and innovators who share their tips, tools, techniques, and knowledge with our diverse audience. Whether you're a recruiter, HR professional, business leader, or someone just generally interested in talent acquisition, NED provides valuable information relevant to the business of recruiting. I'm your host, Joel Passen, the head of marketing at Newton Software. Prior to co-founding Newton, I spent over a dozen years in the world of corporate recruiting. At Newton Software, recruiting is truly in our DNA, and that's why we created NED, to showcase continual innovation in the recruiting industry. So welcome to NED. Let's get started. Morning, everybody. This is Joel Passen, and here today on NED with William Tincup. William, you there, man?
Yes, I am.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let me introduce you here so everybody knows who you are, and we'll dig in. We've got some exciting things planned today. For those of you that are not familiar with William Tincup, he's a seasoned entrepreneur and one of the principals down at Star Tincup, an employment branding firm in Fort Worth, often recognized as a great place to work. I've written a couple books on branding, which I own and have read, which are awesome. And if you're not familiar with their site, startincup.com, it's an awesome site. In fact, every now and then, if I need to pick me up, I go and read their site. So I encourage everybody to check it out. Today, we're going to be talking about on NED. William's going to give us a brief state of the union for recruiters, and he's going to talk a little bit about what employers are doing, if anything at all, to repair their brand after what was a pretty down recruiting season over the last 12 or 14 months, if not longer. We're also going to try to cover, we got a lot of things to cover here, but how can recruiters ensure that their success, they're going to have success during this next upturn, which I think a lot of us in the recruiting world would agree is going to happen. And then finally, we're going to take, if we have some time, maybe talk a little bit about social media or talk a little bit about what technology solutions are getting traction right now. Sound good to you?
Absolutely.
All right, man. What's going on down there? Tell us a little bit about the state of the union in recruiting. What's this all about?
Sure. Here's the thing. What I've seen so far. So all of latter 08 and all of 09. You go to all the shows and pick your favorite shows. On Rack, Erie. There's a whole host of great shows in the space that service the entire HR and recruiting community. And last year, at all the shows, you have these expos where the vendors hang out, and no one would go in the expo. I mean, basically, it was just kind of a ghost town where a bunch of people are over there standing in hours just wanting someone to come down to where they could do demos and all that type of stuff. And, so last year, what I say now, the best part of 2009 is that it's over. In 2010, I've been to 5 shows since the beginning of the year, and what I like about this year is when I go to let's say here in the spring down in San Diego, there was so much activity in the expo. Now, activity doesn't necessarily mean people are buying stuff, so there's that. But at least they were interacting with people. At least they were taking demos. At least they were, talking about the features and what's going on with the software and whatever else. At least they were engaged in discussion. And whereas last year, not as much. So I would say that, what's been going on so far, which is just kind of nice just as an observationally, it's just nice to see that there's some action. So let's, get into the State of the Union. The best thing, I've got like 5 bullet points on that. One is the good recruiters that are still in the biz right now, today, in mid-April 2010, I would say that all the people that were kind of in recruiting for all the wrong reasons or wanted a career change, they got one, and they're out of recruiting. The good recruiters, the people that are still recruiting today, you can almost tell that they're good recruiters because they had to go through a pretty light year last year. Whereas, maybe the year before, 08, 07, they were making, $40,000 and $50,000 a month. Last year, they might have gotten one placement in a quarter. So, I mean, it was dramatic fall off for recruiters. And so a lot of people got out of the business. And I would contend that, the kind of as the ship was going down, the rats got off the rats got off the ship. And that's good because the best recruiters have stayed. I have a passion around that I believe that specialization in recruiting is kind of the key to become known for a vertical, a position title, a geography, something. Just basically, don't be a generalist. I think early in one's career in recruiting, it's okay to be kind of all things to all people because, you don't really know the game that well. And should you need somebody in IT, that's great. Oh, you need an office manager? Okay, I can do that. You need a VP of sales? Yeah, I can do that. So basically, you're learning the game. It's like, okay, shit, you need something. I can go source against it. Great. But I believe as you evolve your game as a recruiter, you become more and more specialized. And as you become more and more specialized, you become more and more myopic. And I believe that's also how you increase your fees. That's a different issue. So I do believe that kind of the generalist, especially in today's market, generalists just can't survive. I do believe that there's an opportunity. I'm already seeing it, even in my own practice. I'm seeing that when you have a specialization, people will come to you and say, oh, well, hell, you know how to get VPs of sales in this particular industry. This is what I need. Regional sales director. Actually, I'll be very specific. We have a small recruiting practice for the HCM side, and what she's been placing for the last 4 months is regional sales directors. Yep. Like everyone woke up on the same Tuesday and said, "Shit, we need to go out and do regional sales. We need to go to Topeka. We need to go over here." And there's been an uptick in that specialization. So I do believe that the next couple of months for recruiters is kind of how does one differentiate. Because you're still in the game, which is great. I applaud every recruiter, contingent, executive, anybody that works in staffing. Anybody right now that's still in the game, my applause and my hat goes out to you because it's like you stayed in, which means that either you're really passionate about it or you saw the next level of uptick is going to be a big payoff for you. But differentiate and become highly specialized. So that's what I would say is kind of currently the themes that I'm seeing.
I can also, just from my own experience, being connected to, hundreds of recruiters, people that I know really well. I mean, I have a friend that runs a small firm out of Sausalito, out of his house, and he focuses on information security. And he's stuck to that vertical, and he's done well for himself. And now that there's hiring again in his space, he's killing it. Patrick Mulligan, an Integral Executives up in Reno, who just focuses on salespeople, had his best second quarter in years.
Awesome.
So we're hearing that sort of we're hearing this exact same thing in line, and I think this is kind of a good segue, actually. I mean, you mentioned your own small practice. I talk about a couple. What do you think industries are hiring? I mean, when you think about the employers that are now starting to recover to support the services that recruiters offer, who's doing it, man?
Well, the industries that are hiring. I mean, everyone. If we're all smart, anybody that's listening with an earshot of this phone call, if we were all smart, we'd do healthcare recruiting because they're always hiring. I mean, it turns out that every hospital in the country is hiring both the hourly professional as well as the doctors and all the people that staff on that side. Healthcare is always hiring, and healthcare will continue to hire. And the reason for that is we already have a system that's already kind of exacerbated, and as baby boomers age, that just gets more exacerbated. So there's that. there's pocketed little, there is pocketed little communities, like we've seen an uptick in software development, we've seen an uptick in gaming, but I believe that a lot of the other, I think, industries, you have two types of companies. You have companies that, over the last 18 months, we've all been through tough times. So, it's kind of a famous catchphrase now, but we're all going through the same recession. And I believe right now we're all going through the same type of recovery. Everyone had it hard over the last year or so. Some companies did really despicable shit during the recession. And they just kind of cut to the chase. They did. And forced layoffs, benefits being, reduced, we're not going to pay your parking, the cafeteria's closed. Name every perk, and then find a way for a CFO to cut that perk out of the budget. And I'm not trying to demonize CFOs; they have a tough job. But it's, when you read stories about people being fired over email and all these types of things, it's like that stuff comes back. And the recruiting community is the one that feels it the most, because in when times are bad, there's kind of a humane way of going about cost reduction, let's call it. And no one likes being fired. No one likes firing people. But in a recession, when you're looking down at your budget, you're looking at your P&L, your biggest cost is people. You got to shave back. You don't have the revenue to support it. There is a humane way to go about that, and then there's a lot of examples on how not to do it. And how that affects recruiters is those folks are hiring now. And, those companies, it's not that they're hiring hundreds of positions, but they're hiring onesies and twosies. And the hard part for recruiters is they've got to go and represent those firms. Because that's what a good recruiter does, is they represent the interest on both sides. You want a candidate that does this, okay, let me go find a candidate that does that, and let me represent your firm and the opportunity to them, and I will then represent the candidate to you. Okay, so it's basically that person, a great recruiter, plays the industry. And when, everyone uses Google, I mean, everyone is so transparent. The Glassdoor, a lot of other great sites out there, used to be kind of fuckcompany.com, but there's a lot of great companies now, and websites out there now, where I can find out all the despicable shit that you did as an employer. And you know what? There's transparency in that. And I think that from an employer brand, pure employer brand perspective, there's companies that had to go through some of the changes that had to be made in their company, but they did it in a humane way that recruiters can tell a story about. It's like, hey, listen, here was a tough time. So this company, they had to do layoffs. They did 2 layoffs. They've unfrozen kind of the hiring deal. They've also restored people's pay, brought back some of the benefits. So there's the recruiter has to have a story. So I'm trying to recruit you as my VP of Ops, and then you go out and Google said company, and you find out that that company terminated people via email, and there's no story, there's no compelling reason that or something that shows that they changed. Why the hell would I go work with that company? Because I know how they're going to act when things get bad. They've already shown me that. They've already kind of, and it's all out on the internet. They've already shown me when things get bad, here's what's going to happen. So why would I want to put myself in that position? And recruiters have to have a good story. And it's not spam. They really just got to have they've got to have the points, the counterpoints to say, hey, listen, we all went through a recession. There's a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of things that went on. Here's what the company did. So let me represent that fairly. And oh, by the way, here are the good things that have happened since then. They've opened another office. They've done this. The story that goes behind it.
I think that's, it's kind of like, I think the synthesis of what you're saying is go be smart when you choose your customers. You're a recruiter. It's an extension of, your clients are an extension of your brand. You're only as good as, your recruiting firm is essentially only as good as the companies that you represent. And you're allowed, you can go out and represent some of these companies that went through tough times. They survived. They're recruiting again. So you have to build a story around that, and don't choose the rats, because once a rat, always a rat, and it's going to come back and bite you. Is that kind of what you're telling us?
Well, the funny thing is the best, which once again, one of the theses of the discussion is that the good recruiters are safe. They stayed in contact with people over the last 18 months. So when a candidate said, "Oh, I'm in dire straits. I just got laid off. I've got to go do X, Y, and Z. Do you have anything?" A good recruiter stayed in touch with that person. Now, I would also say that good technology enabled that kind of conversation, but let's put that aside for a second. That recruiter stayed in touch, and now on the uptick, it's like, hey, I know we talked a year ago. I didn't have anything then. I have a wonderful opportunity. I would like to disclose. I would like to represent this opportunity to you in its entirety because I want to work with you forever.
Right.
That's like the old, I think headhunting. It totally dates me, but it's the old, it's the old headhunting mentality that my dad told me about the '70s. Like they wanted to work with you for your entire career.
Yeah.
If they didn't look at the transaction, they looked at it like, you're a good guy, you just graduated college, I want to place you, and then I want to place you in the next 5 positions for the rest of your career. And it's like, wow, those are the best types of recruiters. A terrible term, headhunter, but those are the types of recruiting relationships that I think the folks that are in the game right now represent those folks.
I always had and then expand on this and we move on. I think, it's funny. I had a couple of these NED shows over the last couple of weeks, and it's funny how much I agree with the people that I asked to be on the show. But maybe I should find some people I disagree with, and rock 'em, sock 'em, and maybe it'd help my own marketing of the show. But the thing that I was going to say is we had a saying I ran. It's still a technology recruiting firm in the Bay Area that I started in 1998. Our deal was the candidate with the best and the most information would, that recruiter wins. So the more information that you give somebody, good, bad, ugly, there's always going to be some bruises on a deal.
Always. Should.
And the recruiter that brings that out and is honest about them and acknowledges that stuff is a real person, and it's not just all, shits and giggles. And so
I think... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
Well, I think that young in one's game or career, you basically don't want to give the bad news. And this happens to a lot of people. In life. You're in your 20s, and you just want to tell, it's all roses. You just want to tell them everything that's phenomenal, and, the perks, and there's a lot of hot girls there, and there's this, and there's that. It's all the fucking, they're giving away Porsche Bosters. It's all fucking phenomenal shit. And the problem with that is at one point, that person either runs into a bad boss or the company runs upon some type of change, whatever that may be. And then all of a sudden, all the negative stuff comes out, and the candidate feels lied to in some way. And I think that the recruiters that I just love that basically come in and say, here's what I liked about this deal, and here's some of the things that we should be aware of. Like, sure. Think of it like, I'm about to get a new job. I mean, I know it sounds kind of, awkward, but it's like they're getting a new job via this candidate. They're saying, hey, you know what I like? They're going to pay for your travel. They're going to pay for you to move. They know your kids are in private school. They're going to help you get into this. I mean, it's like they're thinking about themselves in the deal, not a transaction of I'm going to make, 20% of your salary just because I'm going to place you. Like the money is it's important to everybody, and it should be, but it's just not the driver. It's like, I'm going to be honest with you, because I want the next time that, or a friend of yours, or I'm looking for an Oracle, person, and you happen to know that person, I want you to be able to feel comfortable to recommend that person to me. Done.
Yep. I think that's again, sort of a good segue to kind of go through, starting to get into some of the, I think we're old salts in the recruiting business in some ways because we could share war stories on this all the time and what works and what doesn't work. But for the listeners out there that might be, 1-person shops, 5-person shops, they're starting to see some uptick. They're starting to get some job orders. Their phone actually rings. It's not just candidates or applicants, how can recruiters thrive these days? I mean, what should people be doing? You're the branding expert, and one of the reasons I want to have you on is I think this time around, recruiting companies, even employers, need to think about building this sort of nascent idea of an employment brand. Talk to me about how recruiters can thrive. And we've got, by the way, William, we're coming up on about 10 minutes left in the show.
Not a problem. The thing is apply some basic marketing. Build a brand. And what is the brand? Don't put something out there that you're not. Ultimately, I'm gonna kind of come back to this, but be genuine. If you're a phone culture, put that in your brand. If you're not really heavy into social media, put that in your brand. Whoever you are, put yourself out there. Whether or not you're a one-person shop or bigger than that, build the brand that you want and put that out there. And the thing about brand is the logo and color palette and tagline and all that other stuff. Your value proposition. Don't go out and put something into a marketplace that you're not. That's what's called managing the brand drop-off. When you put yourself out there as a real conservative and company or approach, and all of a sudden people meet you and you have pink hair, that whoever you are, make sure that you manage that brand drop-off. I think that being active on the communication side with both candidates and clients, giving great content to both sides. So with candidates, both passive and active, giving them great content that would help them get to the next stage in their career, and not really thinking about placing them, just giving them great content, building a wonderful candidate pool, and always communicating with your candidate pools on one side. The other side with clients, get to the point, specialize, differentiate, hone your message, and focus in on not selling them, but basically trying to make them smarter about talent acquisition in the space that you care most about. So let's make that real specific. Let's say that your specialty is fraud prevention, and there's 50,000 fraud prevention specialists out there in the world. On one side, with your candidate database, you want to have every one of those folks in a database and routinely be communicating with them. And on the on the client side, you want to be able to put communications in front of the people that hire those folks often, frequent. Every week, every 2 weeks, once a month. Newsletter content, social media if you feel like going that route, white papers, webinars, whatever the medium, you want to be able to have a group over here that basically you put great content in front of them so that you're top of mind the moment that they have a need. When that client says, oh, shit, we got to hire a fraud specialist, who do we know? They don't think of who do we know like a person. They think of who do we know as a firm that hires those people, that will help us hire those people. So that's what brand is about, being genuine and frequently communicating value on both sides. And because recruiting plays on both sides of that, it's just as important to work on the candidate side as it is the client side. The second point is more of a kind of specialized and become really different in people's mind. You want to make your message so finite. It's like, we're only known for this. This is the only thing we're good at. If you're looking for an agency that does everything, we're not that firm. We do this better than anywhere in the world. And I would challenge recruiters, both individuals and companies, to make that so myopic that basically there's, top 2%, we're in the top 2% for this position or this vertical or this industry or this geography or whatever it may be. And then I think with the 2.0, we'll just touch on it really quickly. It goes back to being genuine. If you're not on Facebook, you're not on Twitter, you're not on LinkedIn, I think that the market might move past you. So there's kind of a personal issue there. But on the other side of that, it's a wonderful megaphone if you put value out there, if you put great content out there. So if you decide to go down that road and it is genuine to who you are and what you are as a brand, then use it as a megaphone and put great content out in front of that audience. And with 2.0 types of things, build both sides. Build the candidate side, build the client side, and put that content out in front of people on a very, very frequent basis. So you reuse content that you would have used in email or white papers or stuff on your blog or your website, and then you push it back out to social media.
Yep. I think that's one of the things that recruiters really need help with, too, that over the years I've run recruiting agencies, and I've worked at them, and they may have the best salespeople in the world. I've worked with some of the best salespeople ever. But when it comes to marketing or self-branding or getting the message out, other than just word of mouth, it's always been, I think, a deficiency of most recruiting firms that I see. And it doesn't have to be that way anymore. I mean, they should hire your firm, but that said, there are some things they can do to get started, and you don't need to go crazy. You just need to do it all the time. You need to be consistent, and that seems to be the...
And reuse content. Like, I think sometimes people get really intimidated by social media and other, blogs. Corporate blogs, probably one of the most intimidating initiatives ever, because people want to do it and then instantly have a reaction like, oh, shit, who's going to create the content? And if you think about it, we're creating content all the time. And it doesn't have to be, the 20-page paper type content. We're creating content all the time, but we do a poor job of reusing that content across mediums. So, video and audio and white papers and webinars and blog content, social media blurbs and all that type of stuff, if we think of it like an editorial calendar and we think of, hey, we're going to create this white paper, let's carve that up into an email campaign, carve it up into 5 blog posts, carve it up into 20 social media blurbs, etc., then it isn't as intimidating. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge for recruiters is to not be intimidated, because you're already creating content. That I promise. Everyone is.
Right.
We're just not accustomed to thinking about content in a way of saying, well, it's multi-purpose. I can use this content across a lot of different media. Why not do that?
Yeah, I think that's also, it goes hand in hand with, it's funny, I look at having known a lot of recruiters and recruiting firms, that the intentions are a lot of times very good, especially now. You're starting to get busy again, probably want to try to drive revenue and support your customers. Creating content and putting content on the blog is not always your first thing you're going to do on a Friday morning, right? So I would encourage people that if you are going to start something, a blog, or you're going to call a social network and build that, be consistent, keep doing it. You got to. It's like anything else. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
We have. This has been good. I wanted to touch on. We've got 3 minutes left. I want you to talk a couple minutes about yourself. I want to discuss technology with you. I know you folks. Tincup does a lot with technology, knows some of the best stuff out there that people should look at. Give us in a minute sort of, recruiting technology, stuff that's available to recruiters, what's important, and then I want you to end here with telling folks how to get in touch with you, because I know you like to brief people, debrief people, and pick their brains and that sort of thing. So.
Sure. On the technology front, I think you have two things. You have a school of thought that basically is there's always things that are being upgraded and new features and benefits and technology is evolving on every day, period, end of story, across the world. What we tell recruiters is find something that works for you right now and go deeper in the technology for the next year or so. Just find something you love. The user interface, you love some of the features. Basically get married. Find the technology that you like and adopt it wholly. And try not to think about all the other things that are going on in the market. Just find something you love and go deeper with it. The innovative stuff that's going on with technology right now and will happen over the next couple of years, but let's just deal with kind of the next couple of months, is the stuff that's really kind of born out of social media. So the apps that are born out of, and even some of the SaaS-based apps that are born out of like Salesforce.com or Facebook apps, LinkedIn apps, Twitter apps, that make recruiters' jobs easier. And I would probably, as a recruiter, dedicate about 5% of my work week to just kind of keeping up with reading about what those technologies are doing. You don't have to go and adopt them. The early adopters are going to adopt no matter what we say. But the mass audience, I think just being aware, reading Mashable.com and other sites like that, where you just kind of become more aware of how those apps are different from the apps that we've used in the last 20 years of recruiting.
Totally agree. So stay aware. Stay aware of your surroundings. William, we've got about probably 40 seconds left. I need to have you people. We got to come back. We'll have to do this again. Tell people how to find you.
Easy, William Tincup, and I mean, it's not that simple. I'm in LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay.
And I mean, it's really simple. Last name is Tincup, and I'm everywhere. So
cool. And I thank you very much for coming. We've got 10 seconds left. I'm going to have you back. I'm going to ask you back in the summer. And this has been great.
All right, buddy. You have a wonderful day.
All right, man. Thanks for being on. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye, William.
Is democracy in danger or decline? Condoleezza Rice, William Galston, and Carlos Gutierrez and others take on this question in the fall edition of The Catalyst, a journal of ideas from the Bush Institute. Surveys show Americans place less trust in institutions like the media and business. Others contend America has faced far more challenging periods and emerged strong. Leading policymakers, Bush Institute experts, and respected journalists take on this debate. Read about it at bushcenter.org/catalyst. Is democracy in danger or decline? Condoleezza Rice, William Galston, and Carlos Gutierrez and others take on this question in the fall edition of The Catalyst, a journal of ideas from the Bush Institute. Surveys show Americans place less trust in institutions like the media and business. Others contend America has faced far more challenging periods and emerged strong. Leading policymakers, Bush Institute experts, and respected journalists take on this debate. Read about it at bushcenter.org/catalyst.